What's going on, fellow developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and today I'm going to teach you what Nuxt.js is and how you can get started in making your own web applications with Nuxt.js. So let's get started. Okay guys, so what is Nuxt.js? Nuxt.js is a progressive web framework based on Vuex.js. It gives you three types of applications you can actually build, some web apps. So you can build static generated pages. That means taking this Nuxt application, using all the powerful tools of Nuxt and compiling it into some basic index HTMLs, so HTML pages, CSS, and also JavaScript. Then you can also build a single page application or a SPA, and a SPA is basically is what it says. It's a single page that is rewritten every time. So if you go to a different page, instead of loading that page, you can see there wasn't actually anything loading. This just changes. It dynamically changes, and that's what a SPA is. So it basically loads almost instantly by just rewriting the content instead of loading a page. Then you have server-side rendering. Now, server-side rendering gives you all the powerful pieces of Nuxt.js. So all those sort of routing, those super fast routing without having to reload the actual page. But it also gives you the ability to use Node.js in the server side to interact with it as well, giving you better SEO and stuff like that. So before you render, let's say, the get started page, it will know beforehand to tell Google that this is the content and stuff like that. It's great for SEO and stuff like that. So server-side rendering, SPA, and static generated pages is the three types of web applications you can build with Nuxt.js. So Nuxt is super powerful, and it has been used to build some awesome websites, just like this one, the GitHub Stars project. As you can see here, it's super nice, it looks really good, and best thing of all, it's super fast. And that's all thanks to the power of Nuxt.js. And there you go, you can see how that works really well. And there's even more. You can actually go to Nuxt.js.org and go to showcases. And here you can see all the other things that have been built with Nuxt.js. And if you click on them, like even the TikTok site is built with it, and they're super fast. I don't know why it's gone to Spanish, but that's fine. So you can see here how fast it really is and how much different things you can actually build with it just by going through this site here and having an actual look. Now you know what you can do with Nuxt. Let's talk about how you can actually get started. Guys, so the only prerequisite you need for this tutorial is basically to have Node.js installed with npm. I'm not going to show how to install it in this, but all you have to do is come to nodejs.org, click either the recommended or latest, or go pick a different version if you know what you're doing, and yeah, basically download the latest version of Node and get an npm version, and then we can carry on with this video. Okay guys, so once you have Node installed and npm, we can do some things like npm, npx and stuff like that. So we need to write npx, and we can use a template that Nuxt have this great template. If you use stuff like create React app and stuff like that before, then you'll be familiar with this. But we can say npx create Nuxt app, and then we can give the app a name. So you can name this whatever you want after you've create Nuxt app. I'm going to create this getting started, hit enter, and then it's going to basically take us into a configuration we can actually get set up with. It's going to ask us for a few options. So the first thing it's asking is, what is our project name? I'm just going to hit enter because I'm happy with getting started, so hitting enter is fine. It's going to ask us what language we want to use, either JavaScript or TypeScript. Now, I'm going to select JavaScript, but you can also use TypeScript if that's what you prefer. Then it's going to ask us what our package manager is. Now, normally I would probably use Yarn for production, but for YouTube videos, npm seems to be the way to go. You can also pick a UI framework such as Tailwind or even Bootstrap, and there's a bunch more there, as you can see. Tailwind is absolutely awesome. I might do some more videos on that, but for now we're just going to select none. It's also going to add some modules. So Nuxt actually has some modules you can import. So what makes Nuxt super powerful is its module system. There is so many modules you can get. There's authorization modules. There's the content module, which is right here. And I've gone over this before in a previous tutorial. And I'll link that down below, but content is amazing. I love it so much. Your Axio, which is a nice, basically how you make HTTP requests. You can also use Fetch or anything else, but Axios is a nice interface to use. And you've also got PWA, Progressive Web App, that would obviously allow you to have the same functionality as a Progressive Web App. But for now, I'm just going to hit, to select these, you just press space, and you can select all of them if you wanted. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to hit enter and carry on without any. You can pick a linting tool. Again, I'm just going to hit enter without. A testing framework, so if you use any of these like Jest, you can also select them. Again, I'm not going to for this tutorial, but I'm just going to hit none. And then here we go. So now this is actually an important step, rendering mode. Now this gives you the option of a single page application, a SPA, or a universal SSR. Now it depends if you want, so obviously I said there was 3 options and here's only given us 2. Now in theory, 2 of the options come under SPA, and that's the static generated and also the single page application, because a static generated site is also still underneath the SPA. It's still a single page application, but you can either statically generate it or generate it on the via the normal framework hosting it. So here we can select different things. I'm actually going to select single page application for this, but you can also choose universal SSR if you want. Then it's going to ask us how we want to deploy it. So are we going to be hosting with Node.js, which is obviously what Nuxt is built upon, adding Node to the mix, or we can do static, which obviously would be without a server. For this tutorial, I'm going to select a server, but static will work just as fine. Actually, you know what? We'll go static because I feel most people will be just deploying static sites, so let's just do that. I normally select JS config just because, you know, it's recommended for VS Code if you're not using TypeScript, and that's exactly what we're doing. But you can, if you know any of these tools, you can obviously add them in as well. So if I hit enter, it's going to ask us what your GitHub username is. That's correct. So I'm going to hit enter. What version control system do I use? Git. And then this is now going to basically install all the files and get it all set up for us. And I'll show you that once it's all loaded. I'll open it up in Visual Studio Code. Okay guys, I just want to show you what it looks like once it's done. So you can see once the project has been created and it's all ran successfully, you can see we get to get started, do cd getting started, npm run dev, and it also says to build and start for production, just do cd getting started, npm run build, npm run start. So npm run build will build your application, npm run start will start a server for you to actually preview and see. So let's cd into getting started. I'm actually going to clear, and I'm going to open code, Visual Studio Code. So I'm not actually going to write this all in the terminal, but you could have just put npm starting, done it that way. Okay guys, so I'm going to go for the folder structure. So on the left, we have a few different folders and files. So the main one inside of Nuxt is going to be this Nuxt config. And this is where you're going to set a bunch of different stuff. You can see if you can set server-side rendering here. You can select the target. Again, they give you a bunch of useful links when they set it up. So you can actually go in and see how you can configure them. You've got your title here, so we can change. This is actually the title of the head. So the page headers in your HTML, we could say here like getting started a bit more neatly with a little, or you know, there we go, getting started with Nuxt.js. There you go. So that's what we've got so far. Language attributes. We have a meta here, so you can see we've got the char set, the viewport, a description which you can add content in. Getting started. Just like that. You can have obviously format detection, telephone node. There's a bunch of different things. And also you've got links here where you can link external files like CSS, although they do have a CSS thing here for you to include, especially if you've got it in your file system. They have plugins, and plugins obviously here, it says here, before rendering a page. I'm pretty sure this only works with SSR, but I might be wrong. So someone answer that in the questions or the comments. Now, auto import components true. So components equal true. Now, this is awesome. So in Vue.js, for those who have come from a Vue.js background, you have to actually import your components to be able to use them, whereas Nuxt does this behind the scenes for you. Any components you have, like tutorial or logo inside of pages, does not have to be imported. You can see here, it's just written straight like this, tutorial, which is absolutely awesome and makes it really easy to work with different components. Obviously, you may want to turn this off in case there's some components you don't want to be imported everywhere and not in a global state, but you'd rather have them localized, and that's fine, you can do that. But it gives you the option there to automatically import, which 9 times out of 10 I use this. I have it on. I don't see any problem with it on. So another one is modules. So these are modules for development and building. These are where you put your modules if you're only in for your development or when you build the project. So, you know, there's a bunch of different ones you could say. Obviously, if we go here, config modules here, you can see here a list of modules, including dev and also build modules. So some full modules and some build modules all here, which are absolutely awesome. So let's go back to VS Code. And you've also got modules. Now, these are the ones which will be included with your final files and obviously used throughout. And then you have build configuration. It's actually kind of your Webpack build. And if you know what Webpack is, great. If you don't touch it. I promise I broke websites more times than you can count by messing around with this thing. So that's the Nuxt config, and I'll show you more about that in a moment. So let's just close this and let's go throughout the rest of them. So I've already shown you components and pages, but let me explain them a bit further. So the pages folder. So how do you know what page you're going to in Nuxt? Well, for starters, you can add a bunch of different pages in it. We can create a new page and call it, let's say, about.view. Like that, I can just run the view template, and then I can also just write something in here like diff about page. I can go into default here, and I could pass through some the name about. We could pass through some data, which actually should be that. And then we can return, let's say, title, which will be about. And then in here, I could just say title, just like that, just like any normal Vue applications. You can write normal Vue.js inside of here. But how do you add this to your root? So how do we say, okay, I want a / about page? Well, that's the thing. Nuxt.js, like auto importing your components, it automatically reads your pages folder and guesses by what you've put in here about what you want to actually be. So this would actually already be set to be / about. So let me demonstrate this to you. So we can go in here and we can say npm run dev, and that's going to now run us a development server so we can actually use, actually see what the page looks like. So let's hit Alt enter, or Alt click, shall I say. And it's loading. You can see here, it takes a minute to first initially load. Not that here. So you can see here, it's going to go, oh, we have a small error. Okay, guys, so it looks like there's an issue with the latest version of Node.js and Nuxt. Luckily, I found this out for you guys. So if you're watching this as of, let's say, the 1st of the 12th, the 1st of December, or later, you may also run into this issue where there's a new issue. Now, this is because there has been something that's been depreciated in version 17 of Node, and Nuxt have not updated to it yet. So I'm currently using npm. I'm not going to go over it. It's basically the Node version manager for Windows. And as you can see here, I currently have 17.1.0, which is not working. So I'm just going to say npm use 16.13.0. And now if I say node-v, we should see I've got the right version. So if we now rerun here, oh, and by the way, Node 16.13 is the current LTS version of Node.js. So I recommend using whatever the LTS, long-term supported version of Node is currently when you obviously go through this tutorial or whenever you start a Nuxt project. So now if we try this again, npm run dev, hit enter, this should hopefully actually work properly. And there you go, we're already past 0% building, which is great. So we go back to the website, we close all these things, and there you go, you can see this is our application. So back to what I was saying about obviously the pages. So now anything you put in here will actually take on the routing. It will automatically detect the routing from what you put in pages. So we can actually now go to /about, and it will see we have this about page. Now, just to make sure this is obviously working, let's just put under here, or inside this diff, about page, hit save, go back, and without having to refresh, it automatically hot refresh it or hot reloads it for you. You can see here, it now says about page. Now we can go back here, and there's also another way to do your structure in your pages. You can also use folders. So you could have an about folder, and instead of putting your about in there, because now this is going to be about / about, we could rename this to be index. Oh, sorry, I need to drag it into the right folder. Move. There we go. And now if we rename this to index, you can see if we go back, and now we go back to about. Okay, it froze for a second. I just had to save it and then it reloaded properly. But there you go. You can see about page here, which is great. So that works. But what happens if you want something like about and then me there? Like currently, if we go to about / me, this page could not be found. Go back to the home page. So if we now go in here, we can actually do this by going in the about. We can either create a new folder called me and add an index inside there, or we could just add a new file called me.view inside of about. Go view, and we can just say diff me, just like that. We don't even need any of these styles or script tags. We just need a template for this one. And if we go back and we refresh this page, hopefully once it loads, we should see that it says me in the top left corner. And there you go. You can see it now says me in the top left corner, and it's about /me, and that is working great. So that's how you can create new pages inside of your pages folder. Same with components in here. Whoa, that's a big piece of SVG. But you can see it is where the tutorial comes in, and it's got a bunch of stuff in there. You got tutorial and then the Nuxt logo here. And we can just delete these. We don't need them. Let's just delete them. Let's go back to our index page and just remove the tutorial component. And let's just say, let's create a div h1 and just say home. Just like that. And there you go. We've now got a home page. We can then go to the about, and let's just delete the /me page. And in the index here, we can just say page. Let's pull it in a h1 too. /h1, and it's kind of off. That's fine. Break that down. There you go. And now we should have the same template, but also now how do we navigate from home to there? We could just do an anchor tag and do /about, but that's actually not the right way to do it, because Nuxt will then reload your page, which you don't want to do. You want it to basically re-render the page and not reload it. To do that, we're going to say Nuxt link, more like this, Nuxt-link, and we're going to say to, and then we can pass through the route, which is going to be about, and then we can say about page, or just about, just like that. Obviously make sure it's correct, and that way we should now have a link on our home page we can go to. We can also go back by going to this, putting this under there and just saying back to / and say home, like that. Now if we go here and let's just go to /, you can see we get this home, and if we click it, it gives us the about. And we can just go back and forward between these two at lightning speeds without the page refreshing. So that's how you get, well, that's how you basically add in a simple page and navigate between them. So you could do this with a bunch of different, you could have a bunch of different links in a nav bar with a bunch of links too. And then if you want to go to an external page, you would just do obviously a target blank. You say youtube.com /Tyler Potts, not Tyree Potts. Tyler Potts underscore blank. There you go. But then HTTPS and just say YouTube. Save. Go back to home. Click YouTube, and that opens up obviously my web page or YouTube's page. So now inside of components, let's say we wanted a component called title or title.view. And in here, we just have a view. We don't even need any of this. We just want in here a h1 that takes a prop called title. So we can go here and just say script. And we could just say props title, just like that. And that's going to pull it through. So now if we go back to our page, we could swap this out for title and set this title equal to, and we could say home. And if we copy this and go into our about page, we can remove this title and change this to about. Obviously, because we actually have a data thing here, we can actually bind this to the title, which is currently on this page. And there you go. So now if we go back, you can see it's already working. It's already there because it's obviously automatically pulled through this component already. Now, you may see this static folder here, and this is where you can put any files you want on your site that don't need to be rendered dynamically. So anything, let's say even images or the favicon icon or anything like that, you can actually pull it in here. And you can load it just by going to, so let's say you had an image in there, you could just say source /, and then you could just put in your image here, I'm pretty sure. So let's just say favicon.ico. I don't think that's actually going to work. Oh, and there you go. So going to our about page, you can see that has worked there. and the icon's actually loaded in. So that all works. So you can see there, we could just do anything from in here. It's just from / onwards, along as the names obviously don't clash with your page names, although they shouldn't do, because you should always have an extension to any file you're loading anyway. But what happens if you want CSS? Now, you don't put your CSS inside a static. Instead, you would actually put your CSS inside of another folder, which you can add called assets. And inside of assets, we can put another file, let's say CSS / main.css. Let's say we want some styling in here. So let's go here and we add our margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box, and a font family of sans serif, just like that. So that's going to do it, but that's not going to import this automatically. Now, to import this, we need to actually go into our Nuxt config. So remember earlier I talked about this. So we could say @ and what @ means is it will basically take our root directory from here. So it will know that our root directory is here, right here where we are right now. And it's going to basically say this is the root. Then we can pass a path. So you can say assets CSS main.css, which is where our file is. And that will now render this in a CSS tag in the header of the page and render it correctly. So here you can see we have this already there. So if we now refresh, you can see the styling has been applied and it's all changed. So this is now no longer has any margin, and it's also in Fira Sans or sans serif. I'm not quite sure. I think it's a Fira Sans. But you can see that's now worked, and that's how you include CSS. There's also another thing you can actually do inside Nuxt, and you can create layouts. So if we create a new folder and call it layouts, and inside the layouts, we can have a default.view. Now in here, we can basically just say, create a view template, and we can say it's got a div, and we could just say, hey, h1, and just say, welcome to my site, or you could put a banner up here, or even your navigation. So if we go into our pages index, we can take our home link and paste it in here. We can also take our about link and also paste it in here. And let's just put this in a header tag just so it's a bit neater. And there you go. That's going to now be inside of our template here. But before we can actually use our template, we need to actually say Nuxt. Can't remember if it's capitalized. I think it may be or may not be, but we have to use, I think it's not. And we have to say Nuxt. And what Nuxt will do is allow us to actually, and what Nuxt will do is it'll render the pages, so this HTML inside or where in replace of this Nuxt tag here. Now we can give this a name and we call it default. We can remove this. And now if we go back to our page and we refresh, we might actually have to refresh the whole Nuxt instance, I think, because we added in a new folder with layout. So if we just stop this, we rerun npm run def, hopefully this should now recognize the layout and the default layout we have, and it should set by default to this layout. And there you go, you can see welcome to my site, and we can go to the about page, and you can see it only re-renders what it needs to, e.g. this home bit down here, and the rest of this stays as is. So you've got welcome to my site, you've got the home and the about page, and this will be on every single page. Now, what happens if you want to style the link to obviously look like the link on like it's active? Well, we can actually do that. Inside of our CSS, we could say .link. Let's just say text decoration and color, and let's just make it like a crimson. Right, by default, it's crimson. But if we have a link and it's active, we can actually say .nuxt or Nuxt link active, I believe, and we could say color yellow, or maybe not yellow, let's say orange. And hopefully, if I've got this class right, we should see that it is correct. So let's go back to our CSS. We need to obviously add in this link class to our things here. So let's go here and say class link. And there you go, you can see we're on the about page, so it shows it as orange, and the ones we're not on, it does. But you can see here, if I select this, it's still highlighting the about because we still have this slash. So to fix that, we can add something called exact. And in our CSS, we go Nuxt link active exact, or maybe it's exact active. I think it's right. And if we go back, you can see home is no longer active and we can switch between them. So if you wanted to highlight, let's say, a path that had /about/me, but you still wanted to show this about as being highlighted, you wouldn't use the exact link. But whereas if you do want to only have it, so especially for the home page, as this will always be highlighted, you want to use the exact link there. And there you go, you can style that individually. So that's just another thing you can do with Nuxt. So other than layouts, you can actually add more layouts in here. Let's say we created a new one and called it auth.view. So let's say you had to be logged in to see this. We could just do diff and just say auth, and then just go Nuxt under here. Auth like that. And then we can just say the name to auth, remove this, and then inside of whatever layout, let's say the about page you have to be auth, you could say layout. And we can then say auth, just like that. And hopefully you can see about page now has authed. And if we go back home, you can see it's back to the original layout. So you can actually use different layouts for different pages if you need to as well. So that's basically it for how you create or getting started with it. But I want to show you one last thing, which is in most people will be using in their Vue.js project, and that's the Vuex store. So for people who don't know what the Vuex store is, then this may not be for you. But if you do know, if you've come from Vue and you know what the Vuex store is, you'll know that it's super useful. Let's create a new file and call it index.js. So inside of our index file here, we could say something like export const and say state, which is obviously going to be our store state. Then we pass through an arrow function into a little bubble here, and inside of here we could say something like or let's say I don't know, title. I'd use title for everything. So we could have a title in here and call it test, just like that. We could also have a counter in here, just like normal thing, and we could say 0. And then we could also then say, if you want your mutations, you could then go export const mutations increment, and we could pass through the state, and we could say state.counter ++, and then obviously we don't want to decrement. I'm not going to show you too much of this. I just want to show you a couple of different ones. So if you want your state or your mutations, you could do this, and then we can go into our pages. Let's say our home page. Let's create a button. Call it increment me. And now we can actually pass through our store.state.counter, which should hopefully, if I've done it right, pass through 0. If we go back to our home page, you can see there 0, which is good. That means it's working. And we can say @click. So when we click this, we could then just create a new method, just call it increment. And down here we can say methods increment, and we can now commit this increment, which will obviously go to our store and call increment. So if we click it, you can see it goes up, and it will keep going up, and now be stored in our state, so we can access this from anywhere inside of our Nuxt application. And obviously we also created a store title, so we could say store.state.title and just pass it through there. So you can see it passes through test, and that's basically how you use Vuex inside of Nuxt.js. So that is the basics of Nuxt.js and how you get started with it. I hope I've explained enough for you to be able to go in and build your own websites, web applications, and whatever you really want to build inside of Nuxt.js. There's a lot to go over, and this is only the very basic of how you get started and just basically all the stuff you need to know about it. Obviously, there's a bunch more files here like this. You can actually add more files here like plugins and middleware. If you're using a server-side rendering, you can actually add in Node.js files or a surfer handler inside of here where you can actually make requests to. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but there is a lot you can do, and I just wanted to explain that. You can take a deep dive and have a look on their documentation, or even just give me a shout in the comments, or come over to our Discord server and ask for help there. Okay guys, so that's the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, do not forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and leave a comment if you have any questions or you just want to leave your piece. Drop it down below, or if I've made any mistakes, and do let me know, because I typically say the wrong things here and there. And also, obviously guys, we have a Discord server, and if you're not a part of it, you're missing out, because there's a bunch of awesome people there, super helpful. We try to help each other out all the time. So guys, jump down into the description, click that Discord link, and join our community today for free. No charges. I won't make you pay a penny. Now that's a bargain. Count that as a Black Friday sale. So thanks for watching this video guys, and peace out.